Hello there, it's Dr. Deborah, and this is another episode of my new series called Dr. Deborah's Dreams. So, dreams are just one way your unconscious speaks to you, but I would say it's probably the more common approach that I use with my clients. And besides films, dreams were the number one way that I navigated through my midlife unraveling and reconstruction and now unleashing. So, this one I just had last night, so it's fresh and I've done a little bit of journaling about it, but so we'll see how this goes. In the dream, where I start, I am walking down a sidewalk, and in front of me is a younger woman, and she hops up on a unicycle. And it's interesting because one of the things I notice is that she's wearing a short skirt, so I can kind of see her butt cheeks, which makes me giggle. And she also puts her hand up in the air, and I assume it's going to be a finger, like sort of flipping me off because I was in her way, but it's a thumbs up. So that's an interesting image to explore. And she just goes off. So suddenly I have a unicycle and I easily get up on it. I've never in reality rode or ridden a unicycle, but in the dream, I just get on it and then I'm cycling around and then I get off and I get on. And so, another image to explore is just this ease with which I get onto the unicycle and kind of go and then I get off and it's just very easy. And so the next part of the dream is I am now there's a lot of people walking around in the street and it's almost like a block party. And I see this man doing pull-ups in the middle of the street. And he's walking around like he's working hard and he's admiring his shoulders. And I cringe because I'm like, oh my gosh, how embarrassing. You're like doing pull-ups in the middle of the street and you're walking around just admiring yourself. So that's an interesting image to explore. And then the last image in the dream is now I'm walking down the sidewalk the other way, and I'm walking arm in arm with my former husband, whom I spent 24 years married to. And at that time when we got divorced, I had spent half my life together with him. So he shows up in my dreams occasionally, to represent different things. What he represents has changed over time. So when I journaled, I really didn't know what unicycle meant, but a good place to start is the Dream Moods dictionary. But again, don't take it literally. In the end, the images are subjective, they're for you. So I came to sort of realize that this younger woman riding this unicycle in front of me is reflecting back to me. She represents a more youthful, playful version of myself, and she's kind of leading the way. And it makes sense because in my life, I've sort of finally come out of this 12 years of like, oh my gosh. And in a way, I'm circling back to a younger version of myself, a more confident version of myself. Midlife unraveling really did a number on me, but I persevered. So, and it also represents the fact that she gives a thumbs up instead of like flipping me off, sort of makes me realize that less things are bothering me. So, sometimes we can't help but be in a little bit of a victim mode, even if we don't think we are. And I have been working on not having opinions about things. And that's great. So it sort of reminds me of that shift that I'm making. And as I care less about what others are doing, then what I'm doing is you attract what you are. Your external world really conforms to what your beliefs are, and most of our beliefs and thoughts are unconscious. So this is a way of like realizing what's happening in my unconscious. When it comes to the man who is like doing pull-ups and cringy, remember in my last video I talked about a different kind of projection. So something you might admire in someone like, wow, this man is like really responsible for his health, and I admire that he is building muscles because I love having toned arms. I don't know, I'm kind of obsessed about growing muscles in my arms. And at the same time, I'm annoyed or embarrassed for him in the dream because he's showing off. So sometimes in our dreams, there's something compensatory that's happening, meaning that what is happening in your dream is what you need to do more of. And so for me, it's sort of telling me that, yeah, I don't need to brag, but putting myself out there and saying, I'm really good at doing what I do is something I need to do more of, that I need to embrace feeling great, feeling excellent, feeling competent, and feeling that I do something that adds value. So, I walk around saying that I do believe that, but there's probably a little bit of shyness beneath the surface in this new part of my life. And then finally, what is walking arm in arm with my former husband? Well, in the dream, there's something very striking that I'm feeling as I'm walking with him, and it has to do with alcohol. He struggles with an addiction to alcohol, and it has to do with how I notice that I really, in the dream, enjoy his company when he's sober, and not so much when there are the effects of over drinking. And what does that have to do with me, though? Because again, the people who show up in our dreams aren't about them, they represent parts of ourselves. So, a couple of possibilities. I have been exploring my own relationship with alcohol and trying to come to a place where, if I have one drink, that doesn't really, bother how I feel the next day. But if I have two, I'm very sensitive to it right now. So, it just got me thinking about, how do I feel the day after I have two drinks? And do I want to feel that way? And if I don't, then why would I have a second drink? So I think a lot of us struggle with this, but also just sort of this awareness and attunement and, what we choose to do and the decisions we make are a reflection of what we feel about ourselves. So, anyway, that's fresh and raw. So I hope that this is helpful for you explaining the images in your own dreams. Because again, what is happening in my dream is forward looking. It doesn't have to do with the past. You don't have dreams that just confirm what already happened. It's about gaining a new insight about what's coming up in your life. So until next time.